We are live. Okay. Professor Moyara Ruehsen. How'd I do? Moyara?
Mhm. Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. Awesome. You
Mo, you can call me Mo too if it's
are
easier.
Mo. Thank you, Professor. I feel like, yeah, I feel like you've earned the title after
Mm.
your prolific career, which award-winning professor of financial crime at Middlebury College. You have recently retired this past January, you said, right?
Uh, yes.
February, yeah. And now you have started your own company, consulting firm, company? How would you categorize it?
Yes, well, we do training. We do scam prevention training, and then
Mhm.
we also conduct training for law enforcement, federal and local law enforcement, and the military.
Wow. Excellent.
Military training is mostly in the area of threat financing, terrorism financing and other types of threat financing.
And the services that you'd be providing is how to track that or prevent that or both? Can you tell me a little bit about the company?
A little bit of about a little of both.
Sure.
So, I mean, it really depends on what the course is. So, for example, introducing local law enforcement to crypto. What do you do when you have a victim who comes in who's the victim of a crypto investment scam? Okay, is there anything that local law enforcement can do? Because oftentimes they think there isn't.
Mhm.
Again, a lot depends on the timing, but there are ways to report crypto wallet addresses, and it's a matter of knowing what kind of information to collect, what kinds of questions to ask, and also too how to say the right things so the victim doesn't even feel worse than they already do, right? And then there's also wrench attacks, for example. A lot of local law enforcement, they're seeing this kind of thing for the first time. A wrench attack is when someone threatens you with violence and sometimes even commits the violence, tortures you until you give up your seed phrase. The seed phrase is the key to your digital wallet.
Wow.
So, folks who do have a lot of crypto wealth could become targets. Sometimes it's just someone being roofied at a bar and their phone being compromised, and then someone stealing from their digital wallet that way.
That's all you really need these days, right? Like, I don't even carry I barely carry my wallet around, but everything's on my phone.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So, just a better understanding of these new kinds of risks.
That's amazing.
We've seen these crimes before in the pre-crypto world, but now there's just another new version or variety of it.
There's
People
no
are being mugged, but in a different way.
Sure. I actually don't have too much of an understanding of the whole crypto world, but it's going
Mhm.
to be pretty, ubiquitous within the next couple of years, I imagine, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so maybe we could begin by clarifying how that world works a little bit, if anyone that's not
Oh,
familiar like
that might
myself.
be too much for what we have in
Okay.
our agenda today, but
Okay. Well, anyway, so we're here to talk
But
about
I actually what I will say is this, and that is that the kinds of crimes that we're seeing, crypto crimes that we're seeing, are very similar, if not identical, to the crimes that we saw before crypto came along,
Mhm.
but it's just done in crypto,
Mhm.
right?
I just had a episode recently with, the head of marketing at University of Maryland Business School, the dean of
Uh-huh.
marketing, and I was asking her about how as technology advances, how advertising advances, and she goes, "Well, tell you the truth, a lot of the methods stay the same, it's just the platform in which it's delivered to you."
Yes. Mhm.
And I feel like this is the same thing. I feel like whether you're having a couple of some cash in your back pocket or cash in your
Uh-huh.
phone, at the end of the day, someone's going to coerce you or try to trick you or threaten or extort you, and we'll get into all that,
Yeah.
into giving that up. And
Right.
especially in today's
Mhm.
world now, where in the past you had to be local to do something like that. You had to be in
Right.
front of that person or get into their house or
Yeah.
and now you could do this from another country. You could do this from anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I would love to
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So on that note, so technology has definitely made it easier to cross borders,
Mhm.
right? So you can have Chinese organized crime or Nigerian organized crime scamming American citizens. of their life savings, which is happening every day. It's somewhat what Aaron West, a leader in the scam prevention field, calls a scamdemic.
It's a good name.
It is right. Well, I mean, that's that
That,
is
right.
the fitting
Mhm.
phrase for it, right? So technology has helped in that way, and then now you have AI, and AI is changing the game in so many ways. Now, on the one hand, AI can also help the investigators, and it is, but AI is really a force multiplier or accelerant for
Mhm.
the criminals. So, for example, you had Chinese organized crime scam centers, and what they will do is they will trick people into thinking that they're getting a job in Southeast Asia, maybe at a call center or something, and their passports are taken away, and they are literally slave labor forced to scam victims.
Wow.
So you have someone, an overseer, if you will, monitoring thousands of these
Wow. I didn't
slave
even think about it
laborers.
like that. I just
Oh,
thought
it's
it's a bunch of people
terrible.
doing it themselves, but you're actually
No.
coercing people
Mm-mm.
that don't wanna
They're
do the crime
coercing.
into doing it.
They're
Whoa.
coercing people into doing it. So you have an overseer overseeing, maybe 100 people at a time and all of these big, huge. Yeah, it's terrible. Anyway, it, scamming done on an industrial scale, and that's how it was done. I mean, it still is being done that way, but for the last 7 years, that's how it's being done. And now the technology is so good that there are machines that can replace these laborers and continue ongoing conversations with a
Mhm.
victim using AI.
Mhm.
So you don't even need all that labor. And this is allowing criminals to scale it up.
Yeah.
And the beauty of AI is, and other types of developments like deep fakes and everything else. You can train it
Yeah.
to see, okay, what does the victim most respond to? What kind of language, what kind of responses? They're perfecting it. And they can also do real time, video calls as deep fakes, with
Really?
whatever voice or face, and they're indistinguishable from the real thing. You can put your hands in front of your face, you can, reach around, touch your chair, sip a glass of water. That's how good it is. It
It's
it's it's
crazy.
it's crazy. It's
The
crazy.
I
And it's
I was
eroding trust. It's absolutely eroding trust.
and I think it should because it's such a legitimate threat. Like, there
Yeah,
should it's,
yeah,
that's why we have these instincts, and that's why we
right.
have this system. I was
I feel
watching
sorry for anybody who's on a dating platform now because you can't distinguish, real from fake profiles. And in fact, you shouldn't trust any profile until you've met that person in real life, face to face over a cup
Mhm.
of coffee.
I was gonna say this could be this could lead to a reemergence of social life because we know that
Yes.
one of the biggest
Mhm.
issues that we have in today's world is isolation, and we're gonna need some kind of form of validation that the person that we're interacting with. I
Mhm.
I have a buddy of mine who built a Claude bot, and
Mhm.
we had a group chat, and the name of the chat was called Consciousness TBD, which is a cute name. And and then I posted a Twitter post that I saw in the chat, and it said, "Hey, Claude, what do you or, Slugger, what do you think of this?" He says, "I can't see it." So my friend responds, build an X account and read the post, and if you like it, optimize it and, like, push it, right? And and
Uh-huh.
within seconds, you get a stream of probably 10, 15 texts of it saying, "Got it," logging into email, going to Twitter, putting in my email,
Mhm.
making up a birthday. I got the validation code. I'm in. Okay. I'm able to go back now, click the link. And then all of a sudden, I have no idea how many people I'm interacting with or reading information from on a
Mhm.
day to day basis. And the whole
Right.
thing took 15 seconds for one friend of
Yeah.
mine in Seattle to just do something
Mhm.
like that. I can't even
Right.
imagine on an industrial grade or if you have
Mhm.
a government, and people are at war with one another, the way they
Right.
implement that is that
Yes.
insane.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Mhm.
So we do have to be careful. I do and I think that I think that when people realize that for their own security, for their own mental health,
Uh-huh.
for their own well-being, in-person experiences, meeting someone at,
Yeah.
a local place, meeting someone at a supermarket or
Mhm.
a brewery or, anywhere, and, a local
Mhm.
class or a gym or anything like that is gonna be one of the only
Right.
ways that you know you're not really getting scammed by who knows what.
Right. Right. And in the dating world, maybe the dating apps will have to adjust too. We're gonna have to bring back the matchmakers that the Jewish Orthodox community and Indian community rely on, right?
Uh-huh. Sure, sure.
Yeah. They're also, it's not just, it's not the typical single person that you think of. People who are increasingly victimized are people who are newly widowed, and you know it's there's an epidemic of loneliness in this country, and so if any of your listeners know someone who lives alone, or maybe they do live with someone but they're isolated socially,
Mhm.
talk to them about these new risks, talk to them about scams that are out there. I'm thinking about starting a newsletter, a scam prevention newsletter that later this year, that will be hard copy, will arrive in people's mailboxes.
Ooh,
We
nice.
don't want
I
stuff
wanna sign up for
online.
that.
We need to get rid of our phones and touch grass, right?
Yes. Yes, yes. I'm with you.
Uh yeah, that but the idea
Hey, everyone, real quick, if you're enjoying the show, click subscribe and rate the show 5 stars. Helps a ton. Thanks so much.
too is to reach people who are just so isolated.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we have to. I want to if you can please maybe elaborate
Uh-huh.
on, especially with this lonely, isolated world, the different threats and also for the different age groups because,
Yeah.
some age groups are probably more inclined to one type of threat or one type of mistake. So,
Mhm.
for example, I have a buddy of mine probably 6, 7 years ago already. He was telling me that he was talking to a girl on Instagram, and she sent a racy picture to him, and he sent one back, and then the next text he
Mhm.
gets is, I have your family's contacts, and if you don't
Yeah.
send me 5,000, $10,000, he called me freaking out, and
Mhm.
it ended up not being legitimate, but I mean, that's all it takes. So, with that,
Right.
and so maybe you can elaborate on the different potential scams that go on and
Mhm.
the way this happens across age groups, please.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, we're now living in an episode of Black Mirror, if you're familiar with that television show. Yeah, it's terrible. And there have been certain organized crime groups that have mastered this kind of technique. So in terms of the sextortion attacks, which is what you just described, it has traditionally been the Nigerian criminal groups and other groups operating out of West Africa.
Mhm,
But it there are other groups that are starting to mimic and adopt that kind of scam technique. What would I say is, and it's mostly those under the age of 20 who are being victimized by that kind of attack.
mhm,
And it's, understandable, right? And it's boys and girls.
mhm.
And the sad part of that is that there have been a number of suicides.
More than a number.
It's
It
more than a number.
yeah.
Well, of the ones where the families came out and
Mm,
publicly talked about it, it's over 50 that we know of just in the last few years.
mhm.
And so probably multiply that by, I don't know, tenfold at least.
Yeah.
I'm or more, right? It's terrible.
Mhm.
It's terrible, absolutely terrible. And then there may be suicides where we just don't know
Right.
that that is why they committed suicide, because they feel like their life is over,
Yeah.
right?
You're at the
And
age
what we
where
need.
every problem feels like the biggest deal in the world,
Yeah.
and you feel like you could never get past that.
Right, right. And also, the other thing working to their advantage is that families don't talk about this. Having that conversation with your teenager about whether it's pornography online or sending racy pictures to somebody else that you haven't met in person, or I mean, to anybody, not even
Mhm.
even the people you haven't met in person. It's a awkward conversation to have. I remember when I had a conversation like that with my teenage son, and it was awkward for me, but he was also blushing, like,
Yeah.
"Mom, I know what you're trying to say," and it's hard. It's really hard, and by not having that conversation, you are potentially putting your child in peril. So you have to talk about it. They may roll their eyes and say, "Oh, I would never do that." But, there was an interesting study at Berkeley many years ago that they had to stop it because
Uh,
the IRB, which is like Institutional Review Board, said, "This is probably breaking some rules or laws here." But Dan Ariely, he is a behavioral economist
Mhm.
who he was one of the co-authors of this study.
I have a book by him right here.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah, and so they what they did was they asked people a set of questionnaires, and you were to answer it right at that moment, and they were, just general questionnaires. And then, uh, I guess it's been a while since I read this, but then you were supposed to answer it at different states of arousal. So once you were, like, fully aroused, then they started asking, and people's answers were less rational when they were fully aroused,
Sure.
right? And, I mean, there are all kinds of conclusions that you can draw on this, like, is it enough to say to a teenager, "Use a condom,"
Uh-huh.
right? Because when you're in that heightened state of arousal, it
Right.
you're gonna take risks. Right? So anyway, it's important to talk about these things in advance, but also to let them know that if, God forbid, they
I was
do
gonna say
something
that,
like this,
yes. Yes. That it's
that
okay.
there are ways to remove that content. And these days, in the era of deep fakes, you can just say to people, somebody is blackmailing me with a deep fake.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hopefully that and they need to hear that because what you don't want is for them to think their life is over.
Yeah. So that typically affects you said people around, by the, like, late teens, early
Like,
20s.
yeah,
Just
the
usually those
under 20s, but I mean, there have been cases of people even older who have been caught in something like that. And then I would say that middle age, you know, newly divorced, like between 40 and 60 years of age or so, pig butchering scams
Yeah.
are
What is
quite
that?
common. Okay. So let me explain the phrase first. It comes from a Chinese term because originally it was Chinese organized crime that was targeting Chinese citizens. And they were doing it in Chinese. You
Mhm.
know, now you can fake any kind of voice. So you can
Yeah.
target any kind of citizen. And they were usually operating from Southeast Asia. Remember those scam centers I was talking about? It
Mhm.
all started with Chinese organized crime operating casinos in Southeast Asia, primarily Cambodia. They've also moved some operations to Myanmar.
Mhm.
And the casinos basically shut down during COVID. And so, what are they going to do with all that empty space? And that is when they started operating these scam centers, scam compounds. Yeah. Anyway, so that,
I feel like that's a
uh,
wasted opportunity for, like, a mass you could do so much with that, you
yeah.
know?
Well, they're making more money with this new scam than they were with the casinos, so I
Yeah,
don't even
I know,
know how you're
but
gonna
for
go
a
back.
country that lifted 350,000,000 people out of poverty and claimed to be
Mm,
for the people, you would imagine that they could probably be like,
yeah,
"Well, we could do something, productive with this that's not
yeah, yeah.
organized
Yeah,
crime."
so the term pig butchering, the idea is that you get the pig to, fall in love with you and or trust you, basically,
Mhm,
trust you so much that after you fatten them up, you don't have to drag them to the slaughterhouse. They will follow you to the slaughterhouse of their own volition.
mhm.
It's a terrible term. And it's the last thing that you want to tell people, oh, you're a victim of pig butchering, because the term just sounds so awful. It's insult
So
on top of injury,
dehumanizing. Yeah.
right? And so, but the term has stuck. We in the industry, we still use that term. People have tried other terms like financial grooming, but it's basically an investment scam with a little bit of romance scam thrown in.
So,
And
so to clarify, I'm sorry, for if in a situation where someone is getting pig butchered,
Mhm.
this Chinese company, or I guess mafia crime
Organized
family
crime
or crime
mobster.
organization is
Mhm.
getting a lonely person
Mhm.
to be emotionally invested in them,
Mhm.
financially a little bit invested in them,
Very
very
financially.
invested in
Yeah,
them.
yeah. So it again, it's building trust, and it can have elements of a romance scam or just a friendship scam. So someone might be, on Facebook, for example.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of these things, unfortunately, start on meta platforms like
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram.
Instagram,
Not
WhatsApp.
not not that other platforms aren't guilty
Yeah.
either. I'm sure things start on TikTok too, and but because of the size and reach of Meta. Anyway, they might look at this painting behind me and say, "That's a fascinating painting. Are you an artist? Did you paint that yourself?" Maybe I did, and then they're going to flatter me. I
Mhm.
didn't paint that. They might flatter me and say, "Wow, I love that. Tell me more. I'm also into art." And whatever hook, there are lots of hooks you can use, right?
Mhm.
Or, oh gosh, this is the worst. So your grandmother, okay, might like knitting, and she might belong to a knitting group on
Oh,
Facebook.
no.
What is more innocent than a knitting group on Facebook?
With for your
Well,
grandma.
right. Well, okay. To be fair, Meta is deleting millions of fake profiles and scam ads all the time, but it's not enough. Okay. It's a tsunami of, fake
Mhm.
profiles and scam ads.
Mhm.
So I set up a fake profile pretending to be a little sweet old lady who knits. I join one of these knitting groups. Let's say my name is Betsy, and I will use AI to tell me because I could be Chinese organized crime or Nigerian organized crime on the other side of the world or Russian organized crime to tell me, give me a great response in perfect English of how to, or a witty response or something of how to respond to this conversation that's going on.
Mhm.
I'll come with a perfect response. And pretty soon, everybody in the group loves Betsy. They just think Betsy is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, Betsy, after months of this is a long con, right?
Mhm.
After months of this, Betsy mentions that, oh, she maybe even is younger than the other groups because she retired early because her grandson got her into crypto investments. And pretty soon she can convince everybody in the knitting group to put a little bit of money onto this crypto platform.
Whoa.
The crypto platform looks so real. It might even mimic an authentic crypto platform, but it's a fake crypto platform. And pretty soon they all think that their investments are increasing over time. And yeah, and then they'll put in more. And then when they want to take money out, often to make it even seem more authentic,
Yeah, they'll give it back, right?
well, they won't give all of it back, but they'll give a little bit back. So you can say, oh, yeah, sure, you can take a little bit out at a time. Sure. But if you want to take more out, there are all kinds of fees.
Mhm.
And, if it's going really well, what they might say then, okay, now I don't want to be too greedy. I'm going to take all of it out now. They might say that the platform has been hacked and, your money's gone, or the authorities wherever in Singapore are saying that they suspect money laundering, and so now you have fake legal fees, and it's crazy, but your money is gone,
Yeah.
okay? Except for that little bit that they let you take out at the beginning, your money is gone. And because people don't wanna believe that,
Mhm.
they will often pay the legal fees to get it back.
No.
They'll pay the taxes to get it back and being victimized further, and it's worse. It's worse than that. After they've finally come to the realization that they've lost it all and it's a scam, and sometimes the scammer will even tell them it's a scam. Then come the fake lawyers and investigators who claim that they can recover their stolen assets.
This is crazy. This is a
It's
full it's a society. It's a full society
yeah, the
of
recovery.
just scamming.
Oh my god, the recovery scams are diabolical. It's terrible. It's terrible. If anyone is telling you that they can get your money back and asking you for a fee, it's a scam.
Wait, so I'm sorry, I just wanna
The only
clarify
people who
it.
can get your money back is law enforcement, and they're
Mhm.
not gonna ask you for any fees.
Right. Is this case that you just described to me, is that considered pig butchering?
That's pig butchering, yeah.
So it doesn't have to happen to one person, it could happen to a group of people, and then
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
but
gotcha,
often
gotcha.
yeah, in the past, been one-on-one, but now with AI,
Sure, and with groups, it's
agentic
crazy.
bots, they are, scaling up, and there's only, like, maybe one person kind of managing it all and monitoring multiple interactions all at the same time. It's yeah, it's definitely scaling it up on an industrial scale. Yeah,
I
it's terrible. It's really terrible.
I've
Mhm,
noticed anecdotally in my own experience that, that there's been a couple of times in the last couple of years where when the market in particular has been fluctuating, I'll get a text from what
mhm.
claims to be Robinhood, for example, you know,
Yeah.
or something
Mhm.
like that and say, you know, "There's someone trying to access your account," and I'm
Oh, yes.
already kind of being aware of the fact that the markets are up
Mhm.
and down, I'm trying to check it anyway. It says, "Just click here
Right.
to take you to the link." And
Yeah.
it's almost got me 2 or 3 times,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and I was very,
Okay.
very close, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, there's something," like, Robinhood never sent me a text
Mhm.
until now, I'm just in my head about
Mhm.
this, and I deleted the text, but it's very good.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that's another type of scam. So the pig butchering is, build the trust, maybe even a little romance scam there to and then drag you into a crypto scam. And people are losing their life savings in these scams.
Mhm.
And the biggest one that I know of so far is $45 million. Yes, it was a bank CEO. Yes, he was the CEO of a bank or president of a
Yeah.
bank president in Kansas, and he got so pulled into it that, he was embezzling the money from the bank.
Was it what
Weren't
kind of
his
scam was
money.
this? Was it a romance scam or was it a
No, pig butchering. It was pig butchering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, crazy.
$45,000,000.
$45 million, one guy. Mhm, he's in jail now, but the bank collapsed. Yeah, yeah, so that's the record. I haven't heard of anything bigger than that, but you raise another issue too when you got the Robinhood texts, and
Mhm.
that's another type of scam. We call it impersonation scam, where the criminal is impersonating your crypto exchange, your bank, your
Mhm.
investment advisor, the local police. Uh, they might pretend to be, in the past it
UPS,
was
I've got UPS and
IRS.
shipping for
Now everybody knows, oh, the IRS is not going to call me or text me. They could pretend to be the highway
Mhm.
toll collecting
Yes.
service, whatever, or UPS or Amazon, any of those are impersonation scams. And they're trying to fool you and into thinking that they are a person of authority, like in the case of law enforcement, or a and it's scaring you, okay? Or your bank or crypto exchange. The idea is to create urgency,
Yes.
and that triggers our lizard brain to react quickly without thinking. And so there's a simple rule that all of your listeners can follow, and that is to pause for 10 seconds. Okay? Just pause for 10 seconds and think, now, wait a minute. Does it really make sense for me to get a text message like this? If it's Amazon saying I have a package, well, we're all expecting Amazon packages, right? But don't click on the link. Whatever you do, don't click on the link. Pause for a second and verify.
Mhm.
How do you verify? Never ever verify, or maybe it's an email. Don't ever verify by calling the number in the email that they sent you, because a lot of people do that. It's an 800 number or
Yep.
some other number saying that's the number of the police department or the US Marshal Service or, whatever. No, you independently go online and find a legitimate website, which might not be the first results if you do a Google search. Go past all those sponsored results and look for something that really looks legitimate, a
Yeah.
URL that looks legitimate. And then click on that and then find the contact number that way. Call the fraud department of Bank of America or Robinhood or wherever and ask them, are you trying to connect with me by text
Mhm.
message, email? Is my account being compromised? And they'll be able to give you a straight answer.
Yeah. That's,
So pause for 10 seconds and then verify independently.
And also, by the way, think you could think back to yourself, when's the last time that Amazon ever texted me my package of my life? You know, like, they
Mhm,
don't do that. How many
mhm.
dozens or hundreds or thousands of packages, if anyone have we gone over the course of our lives that Amazon never
Well,
texted us about?
yeah, that's true, but I will sometimes get texts from vendors saying your package is on its way,
Mhm.
and your package has been delivered.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
I'll
true.
get those.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
I I think that what you said also, just to zoom
Mhm.
in on a little bit, the point
Yeah.
about the AdWords and the ad campaigns with Google
Mhm.
searches and stuff,
Mhm.
it's very important, and I believe that ChatGPT or other forms of AI are starting to implement this as well,
Mhm.
is the sponsored results and the first results and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
it's very important for people to understand that the first,
Scroll
I think,
past it.
usually 3 to 5
Oh, easily. Mhm.
pops up on, or I
Mhm.
guess results on Google are paid
Mhm.
advertisements and do
Mhm.
not necessarily have anything to do with the actual search that you're putting in.
Right,
And I know
right.
from my own experience, I sell medical equipment, and there are
Mhm.
people that call me all the time thinking that I'm the manufacturer, looking for technical support, and I say,
Mhm.
you know, and I said, they call me, "Is this Zoll? Is this LifePak? Is this GE?"
Mhm.
And I say, "I sell their equipment. I'm not the manufacturer." "Oh, we just
Mhm.
saw your name when we Googled GE
Mhm.
ultrasound, we saw your name, and so we called you." And I said, "Well, did you see on the bottom that it was AME Ultrasounds and not GE, .com?"
Mhm.
And a lot of
Mhm.
time people don't, and,
No.
that's the other thing. We're quick and we make our brains inherently try to conserve as much energy as possible, and
Mhm.
we like to produce the least amount of effort possible unless we
Mhm.
know we have to. And searches
Mhm.
are supposed to be easy, and Googling these
Right.
things are made out to us as in this is gonna
Yeah.
be something that's simple for you, but you gotta apply a little bit of diligence to it.
Right, right. Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's very interesting. So we talk a little bit about sextortions, we talk a little bit about the pig butchering. I
Mhm.
wanna talk about the romance scams and the love scams because
Oh, yeah.
those
Mhm.
could last years, and I know someone
Mhm.
anecdotally who's a single, lonely, elderly guy,
Mhm.
and I think he even and this he was talking to this woman online or some app or whatever, and his
Mhm.
son said and she said, like, I need money to, to live or to, and basically wasn't even very secretive about it,
Right,
he's pretty
right.
upfront, and he's
Yeah.
really considering it, and his son was like, "Hey, dad, I
Mhm.
don't really know if this is a great idea, like, I know, like,
Right.
you're lonely, I know I understand it, but
Yeah.
don't you
Yeah.
think this is a little bit of a problem?" And I think, and so these scams could go on for a very long time, as long as someone's
Very
willing to
long
be in a
time.
relationship.
Yeah. I have a friend whose elderly father, he's in his 80s. He thinks he's in love with a beautiful young woman and that she is gonna marry him, and he's already given $1,000,000 away, and when they did a reverse image search on the woman, they said, "Dad, she's a Southeast Asian porn star." That's what this is a picture of. I mean, that's not who was talking to him,
Yeah.
but that's the picture that they used, and what happens when you are stuck in something like that, a long con, there are a couple of things that can happen. First, you're under a spell, and 2, if you confront the person and said which even though you're not saying, "How can you be so stupid?" That's what they're hearing
Mhm.
when you confront them like that. They might double down in denial. It happens all the time. Or, "I don't care, she makes me happy, she makes me feel good." It's really sad. So, how do you break the spell? Because by the way, bank tellers at the bank and ones who are good, who try to intervene, sometimes they don't even intervene, they let people pull out all their cash
Ugh.
out of their accounts in the form of cash. Like, who would do that as opposed to, like, a cashier's check? Because somebody on the phone is telling them to buy gift cards or gold or, because they think it's the US Marshals Service telling them that, their account's been compromised and don't trust the bank and whatever. And so the ones who do intervene, sometimes they can't get through because the person is just still under the spell.
Mhm.
And so what works best is to ask questions, harmless, gentle questions like, "Oh, really? They asked you to do that? Interesting. Okay. How did you meet that person? Was it on a platform and did they, have you met them in person? Did you have any other kinds of communications?
Mhm.
Because it sounds, gosh, it sounds a lot like a scam that I heard about on this podcast that with those exact same methods,
Mhm.
and they were used a deep fake image. And what it does is it's a gentle approach, and it gets the person to start second guessing themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but breaking the spell is hard.
It's very
So
interesting that you're
here
putting it like this psychology. It's really because what you have to do is you have to
it's
figure out.
psychology. Yes, it's psychological manipulation.
Yes.
People are being manipulated, and every single one of these types of scams are being manipulated. And so,
Uh-huh.
but here's something that I think was very effective. The Thai police in the last 2 or 3 weeks, this just happened. They did a sting operation, and they caught a Nigerian crime gang that was operating in Thailand doing romance scams.
Mhm.
And they didn't just merely arrest them, and you can even see the police, body
Yeah, the body
cam
cam, yeah.
footage of
Mhm.
the takedown,
Wow.
right? They didn't just arrest them. They also, on social media and the news, posted their faces. I think there's a line over their eyes, so, a little bit of privacy, I guess, because they haven't been convicted yet.
Mm.
Their faces next to the deep fake images
Ooh.
that they were using. So here you have some 20 something Nigerian kid
Mhm.
who's engaging in a conversation with maybe a woman in Germany who's in her 50s. And the image is of a very handsome
Yeah.
60-year-old professor like character that she thinks she's having a conversation with
Yeah.
in German, right?
Right. Of course, because language is no problem nowadays, seriously.
Mhm.
I
It's easy to do. Yeah.
we were talking on our initial, introduction call, and I mentioned the show, Trafficked by Mariana Van Zeller, and she has whole episodes for sextortion and for romance scams,
Good.
but one of
Oh,
the
good.
fascinating things that it's amazing how quickly this became "irrelevant," quote, unquote. I think the show's only a couple of years old. She started, I think, in the late 2019, 2020
Yeah,
era.
I've seen it years ago when she was, literally looking at contraband and border smuggling,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I have
So
an
so
interest in that
so
too,
so
yeah.
at that point, right, part of
Mhm,
what she just the way part of the way that she was able to depict and capture the process was that, for example, someone there would be a guy, a Nigerian guy or a Southeast Asian
mhm,
or an Asian gentleman guy, I don't know, gentleman, but that was, that that had a script, right? They was taking a script, and then
yep,
if the person wanted to confirm, "Hey, I wanna hop on the phone," they had literally another girl in the room that they would hand her the
mm,
script and the phone,
mhm,
and I was thinking, as you were describing, as we were talking the whole time,
yeah.
that is already outdated. You don't even need
Outdated,
the other
right,
person. You don't even need it. You
yeah,
can be a one-man
mhm,
operation. All you need is
yeah,
to pay Claude X amount of money for
yep,
an advanced AI session, and you are good to go with lawyers, with different
right,
characters, different
yeah,
personalities, different degrees of
yeah.
flirting, and there's nothing to stop you.
Right, the technology improvements are exponential,
Yeah.
and so, for example, the real-time conversation, like, let's see, where you can respond in real time,
Mhm.
right? You're not just creating a deep fake video, but you can have a conversation with the fake
Yeah.
image, move your hands and everything, and just talk and have them respond right away. That's just in the last few months that you can do that in real time,
Yeah. And it's
right?
only getting better. And
It's
then
only getting better.
there's
Yeah.
an amazing
Mhm.
documentary called AI Apocalyptimist. It's on Peacock
Oh,
and, is
yeah, okay.
excellent. And it goes through both sides. It's a gentleman it's a creative, actually, I have to follow up with him. I wanted to do an interview with the creator. And, uh, and one of the things that they talk about is how all it needs is, I think, 1 second or 2 seconds of your audio in order to be able to
That's
come up
incredible.
with a
Mhm.
total personality based on your voice,
Right.
and the thing that I'm
Mhm.
thinking about, again, is, for example, I grew up in a point where I got my cell phone, my iPhone, let's say as a
Mhm,
high school senior. I have
mhm,
videos that I haven't thought about in a decade and a half, right? That
mhm,
of, let's say, my grandfather that I film him on
mm.
Thanksgiving, and
Yeah,
it's on Snapchat or Instagram, and it's part of my
mhm,
story, and, we're smiling together, and
mhm,
I forget about it, right? A fine person at 30 years old doesn't remember
yeah,
any of this, but my phone still has all this data, and then if you're
mhm,
using AI to take your data and to go through your memories and your photos and your saved information, a
right,
lot of times we don't even think about the access we're providing into our own private lives.
right.
It's really crazy, and
Well, you and I doing this podcast, that people could take that
Mhm.
and clone it, which is scary. It's
Yeah.
really scary.
So
But
what do we
you
do?
raise
What
an
do we
interest
do?
I know, what do we do? Right. Yeah, like in the past, voice cloning has been around for a while,
Mhm.
but in the past, you would need maybe, 10 minutes of audio to do a good voice
Yeah.
cloning. As you said, now you can do it with seconds. But you raise an interesting point because remember the old grandparent scam where someone pretending to be the grandchild calls up, "Oh, grandma, I've been in a terrible accident. I'm in jail and I need to be bailed out. Can you send some money?" Or,
Mhm.
whatever it was. Okay. So they're taking that to a new level now because now they can really pretend with the actual image of the grandchild and the voice of the grandchild, pretending to be
Mhm.
the grandchild, and and they can even create fake video that shows the grandchild being tortured, right? Whatever it's saying, they're torturing me. Maybe they're trying to get my seed phrase from my
Mhm.
crypto account. You got
Yeah.
to help me, please. They're asking for this much money, and they say, "Don't call the police." Whatever. It is horrible. Okay, so what do you do about it?
Yeah. What do we do?
Every family, they say have a safe word. No, or safe words don't work. Why?
Sing
Because we
pineapple is not
forget.
gonna save the day?
No, 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 because we forget the safe word. But what we all remember
Ooh.
okay?
Mhm.
We all remember that crazy thing that Uncle Bob did at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so that, have your safe story, okay?
But that doesn't even necessarily even result, like, again, and by the way,
Mhm.
I would like for that to be the case, but again, if you're going through my phone and everything that
The
everyone
safe
does is on their
story is not
phone
gonna be
nowadays.
the safe story isn't gonna be on the phone.
Sorry?
The safe story of that crazy thing that Bob did at Thanksgiving is not gonna be on the phone.
You don't think so?
No, or some crazy thing that it has to be obscure,
Yeah.
okay? It can't be like some really, thing that everybody talks about, but just a funny inside joke that only the family knows. And we all have a little, inside joke or something like
Yeah.
that is not shared in writing or on social media.
Mhm.
And that's, people can remember that. It's hard to remember a safe word because, our brains are cluttered with all kinds of passwords, right? We're
Yeah.
not going to remember the safe word, but a story, people can remember stories
Is there a way to use tech, AI or whatever, or any other form of tech in order to be able to try
to
to
tell if something is real or
yes.
not. Yes. There are ways, but the
'Cause
technology.
that could give you a shot. Imagine instead of waiting
Mm,
10 seconds, if you got one of those scam
right.
texts like I got from Robinhood, and
Mhm,
if I copy and paste the text and put it into Grok
mhm.
and say, "Should I respond to
Yeah,
this?" That could tell me
right.
pretty quickly. I don't have to, and it doesn't have to depend on anything emotional or any kind of anecdotal stories or anything.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that technology is not widely available
Mhm. That's a shame.
to people like us, but because it also just takes a while. Like for example, journalism. The journalists, like well-respected journalistic outfits, are using that or not using it, but rather using those services. There are
Mhm.
companies that provide those services to see if a photo, for example, has been manipulated,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But it's complicated. It's really complicated. Like, so for example, let's say the North Koreans might shoot a missile, over Japan or something
Mhm.
like that. And the thing exploded. Um, and so it never went off, but they might alter the photo to make
Mhm.
it look like it was a successful launch.
Sure, sure.
And
I heard during Venezuela, during when we went into Maduro, one of the
oh,
tech
yes,
employed was flooding social media with contradictory accounts of what was going on in real time
right,
using AI.
right, and different images of Maduro, right?
Uh-huh,
He
uh-huh.
went from the airplane wearing
No one
different
had any idea
outfits.
what we were looking at for days. It was crazy. "Is this guy wearing a jumpsuit?
Yeah,
What's going on?" You know, like, it was
right,
bizarre.
right. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
it could be employed like that too.
right, yeah, but that kind of verification technology is not available widely yet. There is a podcast series that I wanna recommend to all of your listeners
Mhm.
by AARP, and
Okay.
it's called The Perfect Scam.
The perfect scam.
The Perfect Scam.
Okay. I'm gonna put that in
Mhm.
the show note captions, by the way, so that anyone that's
Good,
listening can just
good.
easily, just
Yeah,
pop onto it.
it's excellent. And what it does, they talk to victims
Mhm.
of, different types of scams,
Mhm.
mostly targeting their target demographic, which is over 55, right? And
Mhm.
then what I like about it is that the last 20 minutes of every show, they talk to an expert who breaks it down and tells people what red flags to look for and what they can do if something like this happened to them.
Mhm.
So it's really good. The Perfect Scam.
Okay.
And it will cover some of the scams that we don't have time to get to today, too.
Sure.
And then there's another podcast by Erin West called Stolen,
Okay.
where she interviews victims
Wow.
as well as law enforcement, people who are trying to, do something about this scamdemic.
Yeah.
And she's a great interviewer who treats the victims with a lot of empathy. I really like that a lot too,
Mhm.
and reminds them they're not alone.
Yeah.
This is happening on a large scale. So I would highly recommend both of those. Again, it's educating ourselves. It is like helping to vaccinate ourselves against the flu. It's no
Yeah.
guarantee that you won't get the flu, but maybe it won't be so bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Um,
hope. You hope,
so
you
you
hope.
hope, yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna put both those shows in the captions if anyone wants. Yeah, I mean the
Hmm.
truth is that I think a lot of the time the biggest problem that most people have, myself included, is that that happens to quote unquote other people. You know, that doesn't happen to me,
Right.
and that won't happen to me, and I'm not
Right.
gonna get that.
Hmm.
And that fallacy that we create in our own heads of, hey, like
Hmm.
that's someone else's problem, or I'm not that silly, or even if something start like it's so funny because I've been many times in my life in scenarios where I'm thinking to myself in real time, this can't really be happening to me. Like this happens to other people, but it
Yeah.
does, and so it's really really
Hmm.
important to be vigilant.
So
Um,
I'm glad that you mentioned that because the folks who think, oh, I'm too smart for that to happen to me, I would never fall for anything like that, that kind of attitude actually makes them more vulnerable
I bet, I bet.
because they think they're too smart. Well, I'll
Hmm.
tell you what, there is a scam out there that could make any one of us fall for it. Even cybersecurity specialists,
Hmm.
okay? These are people who are experts in the field and know what to look for when it comes to spear phishing emails.
Hmm.
So, for example, let's say that you get a solicitation on LinkedIn. I saw your profile. We have a software company. We're looking for coders, and we can we'd like to match or do better than whatever salary you're currently receiving.
Hmm.
And would you be open for an interview? Sounds harmless enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess who is posting a lot of those fake LinkedIn profiles? North Korean cyber criminals. I kid you not.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so when they get you to do that video interview, they are, maybe the link could be a malicious link
Ooh,
that
right.
you're clicking on to get onto the video call. Or what they'll do is they'll send you, oftentimes when you apply for a software engineering job, they'll send you some tests, like here's a problem how would you code to address this issue,
Mhm.
or how would you work it out? But the attachment could be a malicious attachment. Anyway, they're downloading malware onto your system. Maybe they want to get into your company. Maybe they, whatever. There's malicious intent involved,
Yeah.
and they are too are victims. It's of a very carefully constructed spear phishing attack.
Yeah.
So that reminds me too. There's another, because we're all these different groups, right? You said they're different age groups that get. What about businesses? Uh, the statistic I saw a statistic recently, like 60%
Mhm.
of businesses have been hit by some kind of fraud
Scams.
that started out as a spear phishing email.
What's a spear phishing email? Oh,
Spear
that's what do you
phishing,
call it? Spear.
well, phishing,
Yeah.
spear phishing means it's very targeted.
Mhm.
They're doing research on your company to figure out exactly what would be the best
Sure.
approach.
Yeah.
And these spear phishing emails can result in a number of different crimes. One kind of crime is business email compromise,
Mhm.
where they will take over an account at a company, or they could even spoof the account. They don't even have to take over an account. They could spoof the account and then pretend to be that executive who is telling you to send the check to this other account rather than the original account that it was supposed to be sent to,
Yeah.
right? And companies are losing anywhere from tens of thousands to millions of dollars, depending on the size of the company too.
Sure.
But the other kind of crime that results from these spear phishing attacks is ransomware. And ransomware is when they say, we've encrypted all of your files, and if you want them back, you're going to have to pay us a ransom.
Mm.
That was the old way of doing it. Now there's double and triple extortion. So what does that mean? Now they don't even have to encrypt your files. They just say, we've downloaded all of your sensitive information, and we want you to pay us $1 million, or we will post it all on the dark web.
Yeah.
And it could be the social security numbers of all the students at your school. This has happened.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
has really happened. And then, law enforcement, well, FBI will tell you, don't pay the ransom, because number one, it just encourages the criminals. Number two, you might be paying a ransom to a sanctioned criminal or terrorist group, in which case
Right.
you're also violating sanctions and could be fined or jailed for it's
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Can you
you're in a
imagine?
pickle.
Can you imagine
Right.
being a company employee and you're just responding to a
Mhm.
work email?
Yeah.
You send some
Yeah.
money over, and all of a sudden you
Right.
found out that you're aiding a terrorist organization.
Right. Right.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it happens. So uh, what to do? Well, here's the other reason why you probably shouldn't pay the ransom is that there's no honor among thieves.
Right.
Okay.
What makes you think that
You
they're
can
gonna give it
pay
back to you once they took it without
exactly,
asking
or
to
not
begin
give it
with?
back to you, but not post it on the dark web. They already have it.
Mhm.
They already have the
Yeah.
hospital's medical records,
Yeah.
and they say if you pay us, we won't post it on the dark web. Well, you
Right.
pay them, and you can't trust them to not post it,
Mhm.
or they'll say, oh no, we're not going to post it. But then another criminal group, or they'll just hand it to the guy sitting in the next cubicle, who pretends to be another criminal group, saying, well, we stole it from them, and now you have to pay us, and it's just the beginning of your problems. And so it's you have to figure out, okay, how can I prevent this from happening in the first place?
Mhm.
And that's, just doing your due diligence anytime that somebody is asking you to change a payment route, or to undertake an effort, like buy gift cards and hand it to the employees, or whatever it is they're asking you to do that involves money.
Yeah.
Remember the rule: pause for
Mhm.
10 seconds. Does this make sense? And then verify independently. That could be calling that person on their cell phone. It could be talking to another employee. saying, this doesn't seem right to you. Does this make sense? Um, and oftentimes, when you try to reach out to that other employee or call them on their cell phone, they're out on vacation, right? That little Target people were out on vacation. And so you can't reach them and think, well, I tried to reach them, I couldn't reach them, so I went ahead and paid it,
Yeah.
right? So remember I mentioned that $45 million from
Yeah.
the bank president in Kansas
Hmm.
being the largest pig butchering case I know. Well, the largest business email or rather, where an employee was tricked into sending money somewhere else,
Hmm.
is $26 million. And it was an employee in Asia, it might have been Hong Kong, I think. And how were they tricked? Well, they were groomed, first of all, and they thought they were talking to the bank president or president of the company who was flattering them, and then eventually, again playing the long con, eventually saying, oh, we're doing this special project, I'm entrusting you to keep it confidential, and then I need you to send this money over to this other company. And the employee hesitated and say, I don't think I feel comfortable doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I totally understand. I totally understand. So here's what we're going to do. Why don't you come to our next board meeting? Okay, just come to the next board meeting and members of the board can assure you that this is all kosher. Everybody on this Zoom meeting was a deep fake
No.
video.
No. That.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I it's there's sometimes in the medical when I'm in the sales world, I'll deal with
Mhm.
big imaging centers or hospitals, universities, or something like that. And a lot of
Mhm.
times before they call, especially if it's the first time we're doing a deal together, I'll send them an invoice, I'll send them my bank information, and then they will call. Someone from the office will call and have the contact for the business manually confirm the bank number on the phone, or verify the bank number on the phone to make sure that it's not going to a wrong place. And that system sounds like a pretty good system until right now, where all you got to do is just connect a different phone line, can't you? Or just put a different phone number on there if you
Well,
really want.
it's worse than that. It's worse
Okay.
than that. There have been so many of these hacks of places, companies that have our credit card information, and maybe even bank account information and other kinds of information.
Mm-hmm.
That information, and AI again is making it easier for the criminals to combine that information from different hacks,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even then combine it with information they can get from public records and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
then they sell those packages on the dark web to other criminals.
To buy a scam, basically.
Well, not exactly, but I mean, it's a lot of information. And so now I can pretend to be your bank and I can say, hi, and then you say, well, how do I know that you're my bank? Well, is your bank account number this?
Mm-hmm.
Is your social security number this? And your mother's maiden name is this?
Oh my God.
And you have, a five-figure balance, and you think, oh my God, it is my bank. It isn't your bank. Okay, so all of that,
I
you
don't
can
know.
assume
It's so
that a
dystopian.
lot of your private information is already on the dark web.
Yeah. There's a
Mhm.
guy, there's a gentleman named Ryan Montgomery, I believe, and I think he's worth looking up because he is he does a lot of cyber security, and he blew the whistle on a lot of the child predators that were on Roblox, and
Mm.
did some amazing stuff. And so he has an
Mhm.
organization or a company that scrapes the internet for your information,
Mhm.
and and he's been on podcasts where he sat down with a host, like Sean Ryan, for example, who gets millions of listeners across platforms. He
Mhm.
sat down with a host, and within 3 seconds, within 5 minutes on his computer, has his social security number, has all the
Mhm.
houses that he ever lived in, and he goes, "If you want this information scraped from the internet, you could do that." So I
Yeah.
think that that's something that's really worth. If you
Mhm.
haven't heard of that, or haven't heard of him, or looked into the company at all, and you want protection,
Yeah.
it's absolutely worth looking at least looking up the name Ryan Montgomery, for sure.
Okay. All right. And there's a site you can see, Have I Been Pwned?
Mm, mhm,
And I'll send you the link for that to put in the show notes
mhm,
too. If you go to that website, you just enter all of your different email addresses. Most of us have multiple email addresses, and
mhm.
you can see um, whether or not your information connected to that particular account has been siphoned up in any of these hacks.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you for that, for sure. I want to ask, with the couple of minutes we have, just to
Mhm.
not end on such a scary negative note,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. You've
Mhm.
done some very cool traveling throughout your career, and maybe not for cool reasons, but you've been to some cool places. So, can you maybe tell me a little bit about the different, as an American, we think that the world is 98% America and like 2%,
Mhm.
revolving around us. Can you tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
some of the favorite,
Some of my
some of the
travel
cultures
experiences.
that you've been to and some
Yeah,
operations
well,
in other
it was
countries?
either with, training for the US government.
Hmm.
Um, in one case, like I did a lot of counterterrorism training after
Hmm.
9/11.
Hmm.
And I focused on counterterrorism financing for maybe the first 15 years after 9/11.
Hmm.
And then I pivoted into cyber enabled financial crime.
Gotcha.
Um, and and so I did a lot of training domestically, of course, uh, to law enforcement and the intelligence community. But I also did training overseas. So, for example, um, State Department and U.S. Treasury would often carry out these or pay for these trainings. So I'd go, for example, to Abu Dhabi,
Cool.
um, and in a location that was sponsored by the UAE's central bank, they would bring in representatives from financial intelligence units of maybe half a dozen countries and bring them in for counterterrorism financing training.
Wow.
So that's one example. Okay. I've also done a lot of training for UNODC, that's UN Office of Drugs and Crime,
Hmm.
and have seen a lot of the world, especially Asia and South Asia and elsewhere. Um, and
What's different or similar about the cultures there, do you
oh
find?
my gosh, every country is so different,
Uh-huh.
and even two countries bordering each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we know
yeah,
that, right?
yeah, we know that, right? Yeah, yeah. But uh, but what you find is that law enforcement or financial crime investigators around the world, they're all very similar. They all have, they're in it for all the right reasons. They're ready to fight the good fight,
Hmm.
and good people. And I love working with good people.
Yeah.
So that's one thing they all have in common. And then when COVID happened,
Hmm.
a lot of those trainings went online, and so
Yeah.
but you get a sense of it. Like, for example, gosh, I think it was 2022. UNODC asked me if I would go to Russia
Whoa.
for it's a regional meeting of the former Soviet states and for the FIUs, the Financial Intelligence Unit of those countries.
Hmm.
They'd send teams to this regional meeting in Moscow. And I thought, will they be masked? It's, because COVID was still a concern. It might have
Hmm.
even been 2021, actually.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. But in any event, I just thought it's too far. I don't want to be in an airplane when this thing is still an issue and not everybody, is been
Yeah.
taking precautions. And sure enough, so I did it online. And sure enough, maybe 10% of the people in the room were masked. So I thought, oof,
Yeah.
dodged a bullet there.
Did the war
But
break out at that point? Was Russia in war?
no, no, no,
No,
no, it was
this is
pre
is
Ukraine.
prior to that.
Pre Ukraine. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow.
Um,
Crazy. I would love to go to Russia.
Mhm.
I mean, the other countries that I've gone to, Amsterdam, Israel, Spain, I've Greece, Italy. I've genuinely loved it. Ireland, I loved
Mhm.
Ireland, and but
I've been to Moscow before, so maybe that was, they couldn't,
oh,
it wasn't a temptation to go like, oh, I get to see Moscow. I'd been to
gotcha.
Moscow in the 90s,
Uh-huh. I see.
when it was still the
Wow.
Wild West.
Yeah, yeah. What was that like? Real quickly before we go, I'm curious to hear about that, especially in the mid
Uh,
'90s.
just, very interesting in that, but a little bit sad in that they were um, too attracted by the superficial things of capitalism.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of
Uh,
us are.
yeah.
A lot of us are.
Mhm.
Um, Moyara, thank you so much for
Mhm.
the time. This is such a fun conversation and really, really enlightening. And I think it's really important. I think it's really, really important to talk about. I think it's really important to think about. I think that even if we just take, even if the only thing we walk away with is just take a couple more seconds before we act on anything, especially related to our phones or cyber or crypto or anything
Mhm.
like that, just to pause and hold off for a second, I think would
Yeah.
already have a massively positive influence
Mhm.
and
All
impact.
right.
So,
Yeah.
you
For
know,
10 seconds.
yeah,
Pause for 10 seconds and then verify independently.
yeah. So thank you so much. You're a wonderful, a wonderful source of information, and I really appreciate the way the anecdotes that you give to clarify the cases and the examples, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Take care.